They call it America's National Park of Speed, and the blasts through the trees here at Elkhart Lake definitely make it feel like it. But with little room for error in many places, this will not be a walk in the park. So pick a good spot to camp out and get ready for the PCA Sim Racing Series 13 Sport Class. You'll see it all live here on RaceSpotTV. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Justin Prince. And as always, behind the scenes is our director, Ramiro Cisneros. We're thrilled to have Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. PCA is also proud to announce that they are celebrating their 70th anniversary in 2025. Here's to many more decades with North America's largest Porsche enthusiast group. Well, Justin, if we take a look at the schedule, we are now into the downhill section, heading into the final parts of the season.
Yes, indeed. Closing towards that championship and starting to see who some of those favorites really are with the consistency we've seen throughout the campaign and seeing which drivers really separate themselves out in these final couple rounds. Tonight's going to be one of those racetracks that's going to be one of the classics of the schedule, though, when it comes to Road America, especially to be the National Park of Speed. These drivers are going to have a lot of draft to build up, especially the run down the Road America Straight and the Moraine Sweep. But also lots of opportunities for passes if they choose, such as Canada Corner, as well as that run up to Turn 5 in general. It's going to be one of those types of nights that we may see some drivers really separate themselves out in the point standings at a track like this.
Absolutely. And as we take a look at some of those standings, starting off with the clean drivers, this is for overall. Kenneth Eskridge and Carlos Lopez sitting on a single incident out of all four races that have been run so far. And then you look below them, Hales, Velez, Sherburne, each on 2, and even Rodriguez at Pies and Green each on 3. So there's a lot of drivers that are pushing hard for this one. It's going to take a lot to separate yourself for the wheat from the chaff there in this clean driver, at least in the overall. Now, if we take a look at the Drivers' Championship, though, this is for just here in the sport class itself. It is Charlie Farrer running away, and that's despite having not won a race so far. In fact, he's missed a round, but the drop weeks help him out. He's finished no lower than third up until this point and has a handy gap back to Estupinian, who is kind of in a bit of a battle between himself, Sunday, and Hall, as well as Karachai. About 70 points between all four of those drivers to try to decide second, although Gilles could catch up to Charlie before the season and out, but he's going to need to have some consistent points finishes to wrap this up. And of course, we have the clean driver standings just specifically for the sport class. Carlos Lopez, of course, naturally leading that with a single incident. From there, it's quite a big jump. Jeremy Hall, Estupinian, Williams, Binkley, they're all going to have a hard time trying to make up that ground, because in this one, it doesn't work like your normal points. It's more like golf rules, where the fewer the better. And once you've gotten those extra ones, well, there's nothing you can do to reduce that. So you just have to try and keep it clean and hope that others ahead of you can falter from there. But that's the points and the various clean driver championship situations on this one. Since we've already gone over the track, I guess it's time to take a look at how the qualifying is going in these final 3 minutes. Most of the drivers here, Justin, going to be on their last flyer.
Take a look at Kavanaugh, for example, one of the final drivers, to try and set some times here with about 3 minutes to work with. This racetrack, these drivers were very close at when it came to practice. We were touching upon this earlier on, talking about things. Top 30 or so, separated by just a few tenths of a second. There's a lot more spread here in the qualifying session, upwards of more than a second plus for these drivers at the moment in this grouping. So we are seeing a lot of different drivers, I'm noticing, on the pylon, though, Joe, that are towards the front that we haven't seen as much of towards the top, like a Donald Manning. Don't think we've touched upon his name all season. Like a Alan Owens at the top of the board. A lot of drivers that we haven't seen be in the top 5 or top 10 consistently are a lot more comfortable here than the other tracks.
It's impressive that a track this long is seeing the gap so close. Like you mentioned, top 30 within a second of one another in practice. And more than that, I looked down through those times, and an incredible stat, there was no drivers from first to 33rd that were farther than a tenth apart. So it was that consistent between them that they were all close. They were all within a tenth ahead and behind them. So any little difference you can make here in the qualifying could probably have a number of positions, if not at least one, even if you make a slight improvement. But what about Charlie Ferrer? He's down in 12th. And Justin, this is his last lap. This is his last chance to try and start higher up in the field. Considering he's the points leader, this could be critical.
He's 3/10 off what he did in final practice, and that's not going to help. He just clipped the grass. We'll see if that's going to invalidate the lap time. Believe it may there, because he just kicked up a lot of grass with those right side tires. His fastest time, 2:04.9, and this time around, there wasn't going to be an improvement anyway. Even if he got counted as a 1X there with the grass, still couldn't get the speed.
No, it was in the 2:05, so he was well off. I see a lot of drivers crossing the line just now, taking their third and final lap. You can't dilly-dally here, because basically by the time you finish, you can see you've only got about a minute left. So most of the drivers got out immediately. Kasian not able to improve on his last lap. But what about Aaron Sunday? Down in 16th at the moment, sits third in the points and has 2 third places to his name, but he's going to pit as he does not feel like this last lap is going to be good enough. So he will start from well down in the midfield. There's going to be some real championship contenders that will have a hard time here today.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting day for the championship, and it's going to be a true test for a lot of those in the conversation that are, say, lower down in the order. Are they going to be able to claw their way through the pack tonight? I think this could potentially separate the standings a fair bit, or potentially be some people's drop weeks with the way this is looking. And this, obviously, for some drivers, may be critical, because some drivers, like Charlie Ferrer, don't have a drop to stand on because of the missed race.
And that's it for our qualifying session. Definitely an interesting mix out there. Like you said, some drivers that have a point to prove up at the front, really grasping this opportunity with both hands. And we'll check out that starting order here in a second. There we go. Now we've got Alan Owens up as our pole sitter on the screen, and Jonathan Kuo starting next to him. Gilles Estupinian will start in third, with Nathan Albuhaka starting from P4. Kevin Orr in 5th place, and Mehmet Karachai with an excellent qualifying starting from the outside of row 3. Donald Manning starts in 7th. Jeremy Main will be in P8. Chad Kasian in 9th. And Christopher Costas rounds out your top 10. Then it is Casey McDonald at 11th. Outside of the 6th row is Jeremy Hall. Justin?
13th goes to Charlie Ferrer, lost a spot towards the very end of the session. Then Adam Gerling finished off in 14th. Carlos Lopez will start 15th, with Will Wolf in the 16th position. Aaron Sunday, also another one of those drivers of the conversation about the season for the championship at 17th. Brian Stern is back in 18th spot. Paul Cavanaugh qualified 19th, 8/10 off the pole. Also alongside Anchor Birdsong. Then it's Russell Zando, who started in 21st, then Jeffrey Gardner in 22nd. Barry Yurtza will start 23rd, and Will Mungia in 24th.
25th goes to Avijit Barua, with Marcel Yunus in 26th, followed by Kevin Schultz in the 27th spot, and then Mike Saxton in 28th. Row 15 sees Davin Beltran and Jim Walsh. Then it's Randy Lervold starting in 31st, followed by Andrew Long in P32. Ben Bulkley will start the next row. He's got Andrew Elsom to his outside, and Chris Jankovics will start 35th, with Arnie Clayson in the 36th spot. Federico Del Toro will be at the back of the field, coming off of some experience off on the West Coast, of course, with the POC, who raced at Sonoma earlier this week. And we'll see how he gets along here in the PCA. Bit of a different group, but still all Porsche enthusiasts, so I'm sure he'll have a good time out here in the sport class. Justin, it's a lap around one of North American drivers' favorite circuits. Why don't you talk us around?
You start things off at full throttle, up the straightaway, up through 6th gear before you have to aim yourself right with the cones. Keep an eye up to the second and first cones. Get things arced down for the first corner. Now there's a little kink that counts as the second turn before you go up to turn 3. You have to get your braking mark with the braking boards to the left before you're able to get the run up to the Marine Sweep. Now the Marine Sweep is going to be one of those opportunities for drivers to set up some passes and some deep brakes, potentially up for turn 5. So you have to be able to keep yourself going in rhythm down this straightaway. Get lined up for the braking boards, get to the 1. And in this case, Owens using a lot of the runoff area as an arc and using some of the black rumble strips to be able to keep the tires going without getting an incident point. Then you work your way towards the middle sector, trying to make your way around the racetrack that way. This portion of the racetrack to hurry downs. Easy to make mistakes if you push too hard. Have to be careful on the throttle. Now the run up to turn 8. Hard braking where you flick it to the left in 2nd gear. Then you make your way under the Speedfield Bridge to get a good line set up for the carousel. Through the carousel, it's so critical to just maintain the limit of speed without over-exerting your car and sliding off the racetrack. The run up to the kink is also important. Right here, you'll see a little blip of the throttle usually to make sure you just don't push off into the grass and slip off the track before you make your run all the way up towards Canada Corner. Canada Corner going to be important for braking throughout the day. In turn 2, he went fairly deep on the braking to be able to make your way, no problem without any runoff area gone into. Owens able to then get some smooth motion without pushing wide right through 13 and 13A, where you take the arc to be able to get the diamond down, avoid any kick of grass for that final straightaway to be able to put a 2:04.4.
And interestingly, that was 18 thousandths of a second faster than Jonathan Kuhl. It was tight up at the top, which we kind of expected. There is your track conditions as well. We're looking at about 83 Fahrenheit for the non-metric folks on the track surface itself. Pretty good temperatures, honestly, not too hot out on this surface. And minimal wind to talk about it is about 7 kilometers per hour, about 5 miles an hour for the non-metric folks as well on that one. Thankfully, unlike at Silverstone, it's expected to be nice and sunny and dry all race long. But as we've seen in the previous 2 races last week, Justin, this place tends to put on a show. It can be a wild one.
Especially with the potential of sends and dives for passes. We've seen some drivers like to keep it calm, but I feel this may be similar to what we've seen with Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Potential chaos if drivers make mistakes that check things up, cause bottlenecks, and collect their competitors with them. So you have to be able to keep your head on the swivel tonight to make sure you're ready for if anybody does make those mistakes, especially since some of these sections of the racetrack, like where we're starting for the pace lap, are like a funnel.
You aren't kidding when you mention, the chaos here. If you missed the pro race earlier, viewers, the very first race that we had in these 2 weeks saw the driver that won be 5th place with 12 minutes to go. It was that crazy at the end. Lots of changes up at the front of the fields in the dying moments of the event. So will we get that kind of thriller here today with the sport class? Even more interesting because we had 2 open setup series before with the pro and the club, Justin. This one is a fixed setup, so nobody can change that wing angle to try and get more speed.
Yeah, and you have to be able to drive to what the setup has in store for you. So you have to be able to account for that throughout the night tonight. I think for these drivers, though, it's going to be interesting to see, can they get through these opening laps in particular, though, Joe, cleanly, without any problems, and without any bottlenecks that can cost them lots of time. We'll have to keep an eye on things today as these drivers seem very in tune with the setup, with how close they've been throughout the sessions.
Clean is very important because the PCA has what they call the orange zone on the first lap. If you wind up causing any sort of trouble, penalties will be magnified in that orange zone. So you have to keep it clean or else you'll get an extra dose of pain in there. Pace car is heading in. Control given over to Alan Owens. And they're not quite lined up on that front row, interestingly. In fact, there's a bit of a checkup in behind. Not sure if they made contact, but the green flag is out, and they start to accelerate away. Bit of a messy start there on the lineup, but hopefully that won't cause any problems with the stewards. Take a look at that. Coming down into turn one, Owens has the inside. Kuo to the outside, not able to take that lead away. In behind, all the drivers file through, plenty of side-by-side, down through two and into three. No problems that we've seen thus far. It's looking good so far, Justin. Oh, I spoke too soon.
Yeah, too soon, and it's fair. It's involved in that one. Gets a few scrapes on the way as well for good measure. That might get looked at for your points leader. He's got a fair bit of front end damage from that contact.
Jeremy Hall was the one that wound up getting spinned around, but yeah, Farrer cannot afford, considering he's missed a round, to have a bad week here, because that's going to have to count towards his points, though he does have a buffer, so that might help him out. Meanwhile, Owens continues to try to run away, got a distance of about half a second at this stage. Jeremy Main is running down our timing tower for some reason. Not sure what happened to him, but we'll try and investigate that a little bit later. In the meantime, rest of the field carries on down into the carousel.
It's been a bit chaotic for some of these drivers now as things have built up already. Some drivers up 6 spots in the mid-pack. But everybody else at this point just trying to keep it settled down. Things were not settled down here. You have Hall, has a bit of a scrape from his right side with Charlie Farrer. Farrer gets a hit on the way, and some other competitors with him in the middle of the racetrack making some heavy contact to Farrer. Jeremy Main also got sent down the pylon. Had a mistake trying to get off the throttle to get it back on the racetrack, got sent in the grass instead.
Ooh, interesting. At first, they had black flagged Jeremy Hall for the incident, but then the black flags were cleared, and they gave it to Charlie Farrer. He is going to have to come in and serve that. He's already down in 14th. This is going to be painful. They'll come around the final corner. Drivers still racing plenty side by side. Does he head in? No, he's going to stay out and try to race this one, although it is frantic. Look at him have to weave to the side to find a clearing.
Trying to find a hole for the time being, drafting off the back into Brian Stern. He's going to have to come in very quickly here. Obviously, you can only have about 3 laps to be able to serve a penalty before iRacing would disqualify you if you don't serve said black flag. Somebody has to tell him he's got a penalty. He's got into their car.
Oh, that is Brian Stern, who comes across and runs into him a second time as other cars scatter to try and get around, including, I think, Aaron Sunday. Yes, he managed to sneak through by the skin of his teeth and gain a couple positions. Wonder if that'll cause another black flag.
You have to think so, because that was right on the fender with that contact. This is not good for Charlie Farrer's race and for his championship hopes. Consistent throughout the championship so far. He's had his biggest mistakes of the whole season here already. It's dependent, meanwhile, it's keeping it calm.
Like I said, a second, and a third so far. So here's Brian Stern getting tipped around. He's very, very lucky. I thought he was going to go barreling through, but he just about caught it in time. And I guess it was almost poetic justice that Charlie Farrer was the one that hit him in the end.
Yeah, kind of in that case, but my goodness. We have an error penalty. Jeremy Main got himself a penalty for self-spin. Looking from above, and yeah, they were side-by-side angled out. I think that was more maybe Farrer than it was on what we've seen with Stern, because it looked like Stern was plunging to the middle of the racetrack. At this point, it's not looking good.
Yeah, Didn't get a close enough look, but it depends on if Stern drifted across the track, I think, because if Ferrer was keeping the wheel straight, then I wouldn't think he'd get the penalty for that. But we'll see what the stewards think. They've got a better chance to try and investigate on that. Meanwhile, this is Kuo in the 880 that we see, trying to keep up with Owens. He's back by about 1.1 seconds, so it's not a huge gap at this stage, but he can't afford to lose too much more.
Yeah, so far we're seeing Alan Owens doing exactly what he did in Canada. Kevin Schultz, meanwhile, that was very aggressive on the set. Very deep, causes absolute chaos for everyone behind, checking up to make sure they don't slam into the 17. Just ended up missing his braking point and just sent it deep. You have Lervold in the checkup effect. He also had a send to his inside, but also tried to move in the braking zone. Ends up getting turned around because of it.
Says code blue, but that was more of a code brown, unfortunately. Thankfully, didn't hit the wall. The gravel trap doing its job and slowing him down in time. He carries on, but with a few lost positions. Checking back in now once again with our leaders. Jill Estupinen still behind by about a second as well on second place. They're getting equidistant from one another up at the front, maybe just trying to survive some of the aero wash. It was Randy Lervold's had another problem in the meantime. Looks like the replay sees him actually get the wall this time through the final turn.
Not a great lap for Lervold, let's put it that way. But, oh, that's wild. The top two are checking out. Alan Owens absolutely dominated at Mosport with what we've seen speed-wise. He's on the way to doing the same thing, but a little bit more nuanced in the early going here. Almost in range to break the draft. Kuo's doing a great job of keeping within a slipstream here, down the straightaways at least. But Owens, with these style of racetracks, this seems to be his bread and butter. Tracks that allow you to have some ebbs and flows, but also a lot of high-speed sections. Be able to get the speed really flowing in your car. He's very comfortable in the corners.
Meanwhile, up the hill, we got quite a battle brewing here farther down in the pack. This is Mike Sachs ahead of Mungia, along with Andrew Long. This is on board with Will, coming up the inside from almost out of nowhere. That is Long. Is he going to be able to make the corner? Yes, just barely. Both of them still side by side. Down into turn 3, and despite having the inside Long, not braking quite as deep as Guillermo. Now it carries on as the drag race takes them towards turn 5. Inside going to go to Guillermo this time if he can just keep up, but he's starting to lose ground, Justin.
Not able to keep up there, Mungia. At the very least, trying defensive moves. Yeah, Buda is going very deep, though. A lot of confidence in those brakes to be able to go for the send. That is going to get him a spot. So Mungia just getting absolutely attacked by cars left and right, with drivers a lot more comfortable going deeper on the brakes with this setup to be able to get the car to stick compared to Mungia, who's backing up his corners more. Yeah,
really swallowed up in that one, unfortunately. So looked like he might be able to gain a position, but not so as he goes deep once again. Beltran actually checked up from that one as we're looking just ahead of him at this stage. That is Andrew Long, now up into 20th spot with that move. With some of our other major players having issues, what's interesting is we check out Chad Casey on a nice little fight here, coming down into Canada corner, and Caseyon's going to lose that out to Carlos Lopez, who takes P9. I do believe that Jeremy Hall, or no, it wasn't Jeremy Hall. Who was it? It was Estupinen. That's it. Second place Estupinen in the points is sitting third on track right now. And all the other major players are much farther down the order. He has a chance to come away with the points lead today.
Big chance. Absolutely. With how he's handled this race, keeping it clean, you have to be able to take advantage. That's the big thing when it comes to a race like this, when it's so chaotic for some of your front runners, when some of your other drivers in that championship have not performed well throughout the sessions. You have to be able to take advantage, and that's the big thing right now we're seeing for Espinin in the championship. emceeing in the midst of this choo-choo train, by the way. Some good ebbs and flows from Lopez to give him a shout on how his pace has gone so far. Up 6 spots. We've seen him keep it clean in most rounds so far. He seems to have good consistency. Someone nearly sent it into him. Casion.
Yeah, McDonald and I didn't quite see who the other one was. Elizondo. Yeah, there's McDonald missing his rear wing. I think it was Elizondo who got into the back of him, just losing his braking marker down into turn 5. Also, in the meantime, we had a penalty for Chris Drankovic, who has already served it, I believe, been in and out. So it's been a bit messy for the sport class. The race control stewards obviously having a bit of work to do today.
Keeping busy, trying to keep the peace right now with the radio too. So obviously want to keep things respectful in a race like this. Oh, that's wow. Keeping things up front with how the things have broken out here. Stupendous starting to break a toe now, just about broken the draft actually. But the way things are looking at the moment. Abu Haka, I think, is watching and just waiting for a mistake at the moment, because that's the thing. You have to push right now from Karachai trying to break away. Just went off the racetrack just about and opened the door for the draft.
Yeah, he went way wide out of that final corner. Abu Haka knows he's got an opportunity, gets to the inside. Question is, can he get it done coming into turn 1? This is a swift right-hander. Karachai fights back and chops him off at the apex. Aggressive but fair.
Good move there. Able to get things all solidified for the time being, even with the mistake. Lots more conversation going on over the radio too, involving some of the other incidents that built up at the racetrack we'll mention. But it's kind of living up to what we were expecting. A bit of a chaotic start, but now that people are stretching out their legs a little bit, being able to separate out from each other, they're getting into a rhythm. And that's one of the things when it comes to this track. I know that a lot of tracks are like this, rhythmistic circuits. This is one of those where you break your rhythm, you can get a lot of incident points built up quickly.
Remember, Karachai, with his battling with Nathan, has given Estupinan a chance to dash away a little bit. It's now up to nearly 2 seconds, so that's worked out well for the 21. Probably doesn't want to lose many more places, considering he's got such a good chance to try and catch on his rivals out there today. We haven't even reached the pit window here either. It's a much smaller one compared to previous weeks, just because of all the long straights and the heavy braking. Looks like Elizondo has been given a penalty for that contact he had with McDonald.
Yeah, we've seen Elizondo get a lot of damage from that incident as well. So that's going to go the other way in terms of his luck. So getting to how things can plot out up front, though, we're keeping an eye on the front battling still. I am noticing that they are, with all these drivers having penalties here, starting to get to the point where they may reach some traffic as earlier than expected, as well as Stupendous has closed up on Jonathan Kuo up the road. Kuo lost a lot of time, at least a second last lap. So the 880 is starting to make a bit of mistakes here. That's opening the door for the 21 to at least get the draft back and see if he can get an error step on the podium.
Yeah, good catch on that one. Way slower, 2 seconds slower than what he's typically been doing out here. So not sure if that was his own self-made error or if he did catch some traffic that we didn't see somewhere in there. But regardless, the damage is done. Gilles can now see his rival and is catching up to him. Question is, can he get this pass done? I believe next traffic that they are going to catch is going to be Casey McDonald, although it might be a few more laps before they get up to him. But it's about a few corners up the road that he is ahead. And you can see Owens in that brightly multicolored car, now about 2 seconds clear of Jonathan Kuo.
Owens doing what he did at Mosport once again. And I think when it comes to Owens, we didn't see him do well in the early parts of the season. He's been getting some decent points built up the past couple rounds. 350 at Canadian Tire with the win. Then he had at Silverstone, he scored decent in 210s. So he is in the conversation at least for a top 10. A run like this maybe gets him closer to the top 5 of the point standings. If he had a much cleaner start to the season, especially since he missed Daytona and was involved in chaos at Portimao, he might be another one of the drivers in the championship conversation with the way he's driven some of these more filled with lots of grass surrounding them type of racetracks.
That's a good point. This is definitely very different in nature to Silverstone, but also different in the weather too. So maybe he just likes it sunny and dry as well. Kuo still dealing with a lot from Gilles in behind him, keeping him honest. And as they come down into turn 3, he's not quite close enough here, but maybe if he can get the launch, he could attack into turn 5. Let's see what he's got underneath them. Both of them using plenty of the exit.
Still getting a little bit racy. There's still lots of time, obviously, to work on the clock, be able to plot and plan things. And it's the racetrack where you have to be able to plan just right. You end up setting it deep, you end up losing lots of time. We've already seen that with the battle for 4th place as touched upon. For the most part, it's just try to keep within the draft pack, stay in your pack, work together in a race like this. Estepin, not a good run to the middle sector.
Yeah, he needs to get closer than that if he wants to try and get this spot away. And he can't fool around too much, because I mentioned that Karachai and Abu Haka had fallen away from them in their battle. Well, they've already caught it back up. It's about a second between P3 and P4 at this stage. And if Gilles fights too long, then that means that he's going to have some friends closing in behind him pretty quickly here. In about 5 more minutes, we will be within the pit window. That said, we're not expecting anybody to take this early of a stop. I do see that Chad Casion has been in, but I don't think that is a scheduled stop, because it looks way too short to be able to get to the finish from here. As we watch them come on down and through into the main straight. Yep, there is 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th all in a line. Now, before we get into a battle, we do want to mention that we're thrilled to have Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. Now, one of the things I wonder about in this is if Gilles is maybe intentionally hanging out behind. Ooh, Mike Sackstein getting absolutely elbowed out of the way. Does he get a second dose? Oh, he loses it a little bit, and both cars, unfortunately, Justin, take a severe whack into the concrete.
Yeah, just snapped to the right, I think. That's unfortunate. Andrew Long, your biggest mover of the race, was the one who got collected there. There was a bit of a squeeze. Oh, that was a little bit of a naughty block by Jim Walsh that got him turned around. Trying to defend hard to the inside, coming through towards turn 6. Had a lot of contact as a result of that incident. And bad rejoin, just about got pummeled.
You've got to watch that relative box here in the sim. Looks like maybe it was just a little bit too hasty on that one. Coming down into turn 8 here. Got a battle for 9th place. Paul Cavanaugh in this yellow and black machine being chased by Donald Manning in behind in the number 28. And Cavanaugh up 10 positions himself. A few other drivers have done more than him, but Paul's the highest up that's gained double digits in this race.
Taking over one of those biggest mover opportunities so far. I think part of it has just been he hasn't been involved in any trouble. He hasn't put any tires off the racetrack. Just slow and steady, keeping it consistent. Right now in the 206 is on pace, just trying not to make mistakes. You have others behind him looking for the razzmatazz, like Peter Yurtsa. also doing well, just making sure he stays on the circuit. I'm surprised Aaron Sunday's doing as well as he is, though, to say, Joe, behind him, because he's in this battle with a lot of rear end damage from those opening laps. Sunday having to fight a wounded race car just to be able to keep up with the draft.
That's going to be difficult. Now, the good news for him is they have a spare car in this series. Essentially, if you come into the pits, you can get a completely fresh, clean car that has no damage and get back out there without losing any time, if you're not familiar with how iRacing works. Now, if he does use that, though, in this pit stop, that means he's got no safety net afterwards. But that said, if he makes the second pit stop anyways, he's already going to be losing gobs of time. So might as well take it once he is in, just to get the car in perfect, pristine condition. Back up to our battle for second place. Kuo versus Estupinan. Still not seeing Gilles able to get close enough to attack here. And now Karachai has cut it down to about 0.9 of a second. He's eating away at their lead.
Yeah, just a little bit. Getting back into a flow of things. Last time by 2:05.1 for Owens. There's saying just in terms of things, that's the best you can do is hope that there's a bit of fall off, that Owens burns up his stuff a little bit, starts to slip up with how things go. At this point, it's going to be hard to strategize to gain 2.3 seconds in the pit lane. That's not going to realistically happen. It's got to be down to the driver itself if you want a true shot here.
Yeah, I agree. It's although you say that, but one weird thing that we saw in the previous two races, there was a wide swath of pit stop times. It ranged from 17 seconds up to 23 seconds. So I wouldn't put it past Gilles or anybody to be able to somehow leapfrog up into the lead, but it'll take some real fuel saving to do so. And even if Gilles is doing that right now, I don't think he's quite close enough to Jonathan to be able to get the most out of it. So I don't think he'll get that much, but you just never know. We saw in one of the races, the driver in third before the pit stops jump up to first after the pit stops.
That's a decent point when it comes to that, especially since if you get that fuel number wrong, you're definitely going to lose time. Absolutely. That's a great point, actually. So it's right now going to become a question, too, then. Was Owens trying to push hard and burn a little bit more fuel than just to break away from the gap, or is this just a raw pace once again that we've seen from him time in, time out so far at this style of race? That's going to be something I think we won't find out for at least an hour, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like the pit stop will answer that question. So we're just going to have to sit and wait to see what it looks like, what his time looks like when he's stationary, and how much fuel he's going to need. In the meantime, he does have himself a nice little gap to those behind to help him out at the very least. And as we've seen, he also does have the pace. So if he gets jumped with a bit of a longer pit stop, he could still fight back depending on how far behind he is. As we watch Kuo come around the final turn once again. Estupinan actually dropping off. It's now a second between the two of them. And Karachai is looking at trying to get onto the podium. He's on the attack.
That in the backdrop right now. Karachai has had to close up a fair bit with Estupinan falling back. Looking like there's a bit of a brave move there to the inside. Just couldn't get alongside as more traffic starting to build up.
He's certainly filling in his mirrors now. But his problem is he's got Abu Haka in behind him. You can see how close that trio is. In fact, it slowed up Mehmet so much that now it looks like Nathan's got a good shot at trying to attack. So from offense to defense for the number 78 here, what's going to happen coming down into the braking? And as they hit turn 5, a defensive line from Mehmet will keep him ahead, but that's going to slow him down even more.
Kuo's now getting a bit of a buffer as we still see on screen, but again, remember, the more they race 4th and 5th, the more likely they lose the gap again. It's been that they've spent a few laps trying to close up to. And this all helps Kuo that gets himself just in a clean air pocket of about 3 seconds to work forward here. So we'll have to keep an eye on how this toned aggression is really tuned into for some of these drivers up front, knowing the situations and knowing the big picture of these types of races, even in a 1 hour race.
Yeah, I have to remember that they are a decent length and they do have strategy to them. So you got to be working with the entire race itself, as you said, the big picture, to try and be fast in the end. Karachai here still under attack from Abu Haka. So it was short-lived for Mehmet trying to push forward, although he gained a lot coming through the final turn. Looked very strong in comparison to Estupinian, and that does keep Nathan at arm's length behind him.
And for some reason, Estupinian's wiper blade going off to add to the measure of things. That's not going to help with the aerodynamics around the racetrack. But it's still where this has to be a little bit concerning for Estupinian if you think about the stopwatch, because in the early going was able to get into the 204s once the tires got up to heat. Now he's fallen off by at least 4 or 5 tenths. Other drivers like Carlos Lopez, they're getting swarmed. You know why? Paul Kavanaugh, he's gone the opposite spectrum. He's now setting his fastest laps right now. Last time by, he set a 2:04.9. Kavanaugh is absolutely comfortable with this car right now.
Looking at Carlos Lopez, who is in that black and red machine just in front of him. Let's see what he can do in turns 5 here as he gets him down to the very inside, forces him to defend. It's not going to give him the spot, but he certainly got him on the ropes. Lopez holds on to P8 at least for the time being. Now, one thing I do want to mention that we've got coming up here with PCA is that they're going to be hosting an Operation Motorsports Benefit event. This year's will be a 6-hour race on Sunday, May 4th at, of course, the ever-popular Spa-Francorchamps. For more information, go to pcasimracing.com/opmo6hours if you want to try and take part in this one. If you're ready to register, head on over to, well, we've got, there you go, tinyurl.com, opmo2025, to take part in that. Definitely a great organization. I'm actually very excited because they are doing an endurance race over here in the States for the first time, Operation Motorsports. They've had theirs over the UK for many years, and in November, they're going to be at VIR doing the same deal and celebrating Veterans Day at that event. So should be a really good time, and definitely looking forward to the drivers getting out on track in multiple classes.
Yeah, they do a lot of great work, especially we've seen them in the community and closely connected with PCA for years. Should be a fun time to see how that 6-hour event goes when that happens in a few months' time for these drivers. But still keep an eye on that battle on screen. Kavanaugh, I think, just waiting patiently right now. There was some swapping in the pack just behind him, by the way, with Gerling taking a top 10 spot. But right now, it seems like Kavanaugh's just going with the flow. We've seen Kavanaugh go with the flow and not push overly too much in these types of races. He seems content right now. Just wait, maybe send it if there's a true chance. Thought about a look there, then go from there. He's up 10 spots for a reason.
Yeah, if he can hold on to this will be his best finish of the season, because I believe his previous best was 11th. He's in 9th right now, and he looks strong. So I think there's a little bit more on the cards than just a 9th place, as long as he can keep this up. Very good under brakes here down in the hurry downs. Tries to open up the entry into the carousel. This could be important here, because if you get a launch, you can try and attack into Canada corner. But first, you got to get through the kink, Justin. Let's see who's quick.
Just keeping an eye. It looks like they're about even this time. That battle for 10th, by the way, separated out Gerling. This lap has really been able to stretch away how things have gone out for Donald Manning. This lap, at this point, no true mistakes, no slip-ups. Lopez just keeping it clean on the top box. On the bottom box, just seeing Gerling run away in the powder blue machine.
Yeah, that's been a nice job. You said he had just made that pass recently on Donald Manning, who is actually going to peel into the pits. There we saw him just duck off screen. So he is one of our takers to go for the halfway mark. This is a strategy some drivers do tend to try for and just cut the race perfectly in half. Now, the downside to this is you're going to have a slightly heavier car for the next few laps.
Yes. So some people like to do it, just split it up halfway, keep it simple. Others like to keep it to where they know the strategy and go from there. So I think for most drivers, they go with trying to go as far as they can, save a few seconds in the pit lane, try and get a lighter race car because lighter equals faster. At this point, still expecting the pit stops in about 8, 9, 10 minutes or so for that pit party really starts to build up here. And right now, you think drivers like Calvin are in good positions just to save fuel a little bit, maybe sip a little bit of fuel just in the draft of Lopez, rather than on their own burning a little bit more.
So we've hit that halfway mark as Jim Walsh has not been having the best of days, unfortunately. Has a little slide coming through the carousel as Brian Stern running into more problems. He tries to dive to the inside. The door closes on him. To be fair, I seemed like he had his car halfway up there. I'm not sure if it was just a bit too late or what, but I feel like maybe he deserved a bit more room than that coming down into Canada Corner. I want to give another shout out, of course, to Princess Cruises because they're the 2025 PCA title sponsor. And as the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. So we are back once again with this front group. Karachai is now behind Abu Haka. So those two, I believe, have switched around because wasn't Nathan behind Mehmet before?
Yeah, they've swapped around again. They've swapped a couple times this race with how things have gone. And at this point, Abu Haka, I think at this point, has to settle in and say, look, I've got to be able to hold on to the spot. Because they lost more time again, nearly a full second to Estupinen with their squabbling and with that battling. So right now, just got to get going. A 2:05 flat last time by.
Yeah, Estupinen is probably loving the fact that he's now got that distance, but his battle is definitely not over. Look at how close Mehmet is staying to the Roxy car just in front of him. Both of them trying to open up the carousel to get on the throttle as soon as possible. Get every ounce of speed coming down into the kettle bottoms. And as they whip through the kink, they pick up to about 160 miles an hour, 161 before finally hitting the brakes into Canada Corner. Not going to change positions this time. The 958 will keep ahead. But the question is, what's it going to look like after the pit stops?
Yeah, that's going to be the big thing that might separate things out, especially if they stagger the laps here in a few minutes. And right now, they are getting some draft tow once again with Kuo starting to fall back to making a 4-car pack just about. That battle for 12 for the lower box right now. Yurtsa still doing solid. Aaron Sunday has still maintained the draft to be able to keep up despite all the efforts from that race car to lose the tow with the rear end. It's just been able to keep up, and it looks like Sunday is still struggling just to not get a good corner and says, you know what, I'm just going to take the loss and come in.
Yeah, maybe that dirty air just not working out well for them these GT3Rs do kick up quite a bit of buffeting behind them, even on a track like this, and so that can be tough. Sunday, like I said, I kind of expected him to be a little bit higher up. He is sitting third in the points, but that's because of 2 third places, and then he only got 2 points at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. And then when we went over to Silverstone, he managed a 7th place at best. Right now, he was about in 12th position before he took this pit stop. We'll see if this gets him any higher up, but this is not going to help his hopes of trying to fight for back-to-back titles in different classes here. Because remember, he was our challenge title winner last time out here in PCA. So trying to jump up the order and move to a new class and show that he's just as quick here too.
The tough thing for Sunday, now that he's got a fresh car, I think he can try and maybe gain a couple spots. The downside is, how big was that damage compared to some of the others? Well, first of all, had a 2-second longer pit stop than, say, Paul Cavanaugh, one of the first of those who have pit so far. Second, it's 13 seconds to Cavanaugh. So for Sunday, it's going to be about hoping some people botch their pit strategies here as the rest of the leaders come on in for their scheduled service. Looks like we're all set with the top 4 all in. Top 5, in fact, just about.
But Karachai is able to carry on an extra lap here. Interesting that we've got so many coming in this time. As usually it was maybe about 1 lap longer that we saw the other classes be able to stay out for the most part. But Costas is going to keep going. It looks like the 719 stays out. Carlos Lopez is able to go another lap. It's a pretty interesting split here. Adam Gerling, yeah, it's about half and half almost, it seems, in the top of the field.
Yeah, should see everyone else come into the next lap or so then. But it is evident on how good some of the drivers did on the fuel save in this situation. Owens, he ended up getting below 21 seconds. These pit stops a little bit longer compared to some of those from memory. What we've seen prior to the build, there wasn't really any changes to the car outside of the wiper blades per se, and the wheel damage for the entire class in terms of damage parameters. But I am noticing these stops a little bit longer, interesting enough, here today. Maybe with the size of the track, maybe with how things have gone so far, just adding that extra bit of fuel rather than pushing an extra few minutes here and get the strategy solidified.
Now, here's an intriguing one. Did we miss Jonathan Kuo losing more time to Owens? Because I thought he was staying at about 2 seconds behind, and he had a quicker pit stop by more than a second, almost a second and a half. And yet he's still at 3.5 seconds behind Owens, and it's not cone-to-cone lost time either. So very intriguing.
He was starting to fall into the clutch the other pack I didn't know before. So he was starting to fall back a bit. I think that's kind of also just how quick we've seen some of the other drivers go. It was
sorry. Karachai has just had an issue. He's in the wall. He didn't even get to make it to his pit stop. There he is, picking it up once again. Sorry to butt in, but I was curious how close he was, and I went to check on him on my screen, and he had clearly smashed into the concrete.
Well, there's that mistake we're just waiting for in terms of the pit blunders. Karachai already had a little bit of rear end damage on the car. Ended up just carrying a little bit too much speed. I'm noticing in terms of what he did through 13A, where, watch this, looks like a normal corner, right? Ends up carrying just a touch bit more speed, starts to kick out the left, overcorrects, and it snaps to the right, hard into the concrete barrier, and that is going to obviously be the faster pair, but better yet, at least 4 or 5 seconds out the window. There he goes out of the conversation for the top 5.
Yeah, he lost the spot to Costas, who was able to get by him in that process. Again, yeah, it's instant, the spare car, so we won't lose time on that front. In the meantime, Abu Haka and Estupinan are side by side. They just flashed past into turn one, battling for what will be third place here. Now that the pit stops look to be through, round the outside all the way up to the grass here for Gilles. He'll hold on to it. Abu Haka gets a better launch though. The battle rages on, coming down the moraine sweep, and it's a little bit better momentum for the Roxy car.
Good opportunity to try and get this spot if he is able to make it stick along the outside. There's the deeper braking expected. Now the top thing is keeping it alongside would be dangerous, and as expected just gives up the spot, knows the inside line's controlled by the 21, but kind of emphasizes how well Abu Haka handled this pit sequence to try and battle for third spot on the racetrack. Expect him to try and keep things intense. Just the problem is going to be that dirty air you talked about. That's the big thing. He's having to lift a lot more to make sure he doesn't plow off the track.
Now, what was Nathan's stationary time? Because unfortunately, my timing and scoring is glitched, and I'm not showing a time for him. But Estupinian is showed at about 24 seconds, roughly.
I've noticed the same thing. So it kind of emphasizes just the position of the pit box, I think, possibly. In terms of the count, going to manually count this at the moment as we take a look at Kavanaugh. Remember, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll let you count. I'll keep with the action here. Kavanaugh, where does he come out in all this? Looks like about 10th place. So he has actually lost a spot to Adam Gerling. Yeah, who was about 2 seconds quicker in his pit stop. So Gerling gets at least another driver over the course of their strategy coming up through Bill Mitchell Bend here. They've also got Carlos Lopez in front of them, so that is also for position. And then Chad Casey on. So 4 cars all close together, but not close enough to rival with this. Battle for P3 on again, down to the inside. Not brave enough on the binders for Abu Haka, and he'll have to try again a little bit later. Did you get a count for us, Justin?
About 23 seconds, give or take, in the pit box, maybe. I think it was more so his entry, because here's the thing. Estupinian had a lot more slowdown coming up to the cone behind Kuho compared to what Abu Haka was able to send with some of the traffic there. Abu Haka gained a lot of time up the hillside, and he's going very aggressive on the send. Very lucky to make it stick. Estupinian with a good cross.
He's going to have the inside as well coming up into turn 6. Under the bridge, over the crest. He'll once again move ahead. Nathan ever so briefly back into that third spot. Abu Haka is 6th in the points coming into this round, so not that far away from Gilles. But remember, Gilles has a good chance at trying to take the points lead. Charlie Ferrer still sitting in 27th. There's a replay of what was a valiant effort from the Roxy car, but unfortunately just did not have the adhesion.
Yeah, just couldn't get back in position for the defense and the crossover attempt. That's what happens when you set it so much. You have to slow back down, and Estupinian had a lot more speed on corner exit to be able to get back alongside. You can see he is very concerned about Abu Haka with how aggressive and how fast he's looking at his car, though. If he's swerving that much heading into Canada corner, already knows that Abu Haka's got a good chance to be able to go, and already knows if he leaves the door open, Abu Haka's going to just try and scream through the door.
Gilles, if he finishes in third, is going to score a nice 300 points. Oh, Mungi, our latest victim of the kink. Not the first during this event for the PCA here to hit that wall. Another little look down the inside from Nathan, and then reconsiders it, knowing he's a little bit too far back. But to my point, it's 300 points for Gilles if he finishes in third. Where Charlie Ferrer is right now, he's only getting 40 points. Remember, he has a 0 because of a missed race in his drop. So those 40 points will have to count. Right now, Gilles will absolutely shoot to the lead. And that's even if he finishes in 4th. So if you put yourself in Estupinian's shoes here, Justin, how hard do you fight knowing it could matter later on, but you also can't waste a great opportunity here to outscore your rival and wind up with the lead in the championship?
I think knowing that, you have to defend as much as you can in the case of Estupinian. you can't afford to lose a spot, especially knowing Charlie Ferrer is going to be very much hoping there's a lot more luck at this point. He's 27, has not been able to recover anything. This is a prime opportunity for Estupiñán, as you've said. Now it's the problem going to be, can Estupiñán do it without risking the race car, without getting into a crash, without Mahaka being so brave in some of these sections? I think for Estupiñán, you have to defend for all you can. Just don't crash the car and turn a net positive or a near net flip of the switch for the point lead into a big crash and a net neutral out of the blue with the defensive move.
Yeah, so to drive home just how big of a swing this is going to be, there was 70 points difference coming in between P1 and P2. This will be a 260-point gain if Estupiñán finishes in third. Let me double check to see how much fourth. 280. So yeah, that would still be a 240-point swing for him. That is, it's crazy how far ahead he will be of Charlie Ferrer. He's still going to have to fight off Aaron Sunday, who's looking like he won't have the greatest of days, but will still keep a few points. Jeremy Hall, obviously, as well down the order as he was involved in early issues. And then Mehmet Karaçay is the only other one that's up towards the top. He's sitting in 7th, but he's coming into today's round sitting in 5th in the points. So not as big of a concern. I really feel like Gilles just cannot waste this. He needs to keep the car safe. Yes, defend, but you got to bring it home.
Exactly. So looks like Abahaka having some technical blips there for a moment. Some side-by-side of the lower box. Lopez having to play some aggressive defending right now because Gerling, who's been really quick as of late, trying to make some moves. You have Kavanaugh in the popcorn seat. It's been a while since we've seen Kavanaugh get a chance to battle. You also have Casey on, who had some contact earlier on in the race. Still holding on to the caboose in this draft pack in the bottom.
So getting plenty of action up and down the order. And before that action gets a little bit too thick, we want to talk about Princess Cruises one more time. They're the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. Gilles still holding on. This time, though, it's looking a lot safer than before, so we check in behind them to Christopher Costas and Mehmet Karaçay. Christopher deserves some love here, Justin. A gain of 5 places here in the top 10. That is difficult to do, especially considering he is the only driver within the top 6 who has changed positions since the start.
Yeah, Costas doing a great job keeping it on the racetrack, taking advantage of some of the mistakes from drivers like Karaçay throughout this race tonight. And we've seen Costas show flashes of this throughout the campaign. When you talk about things, Costas, after all, has looked solid in a lot of the races. It's just been about getting the finishing position. Seems to be in line for that. Kavanaugh making a move. He wants to try and get 9th spot back. Looks like Gerling has the better toe, though, has the better speed and the defensive line.
So what's going to happen? Into the left-hander here, tries to turn in. There's a car there that feeds him out wide. Here comes Chad Casey saying, thank you very much. This is my chance to get involved in the fun. And at turn 6, he is able to slice through. It has gone from a positive to a negative for Paul Kavanaugh. He falls to 11th.
Nicely done. Was said on the radio by Paul Kavanaugh. All you can do is compliment that, but all you can say is thank you for the spot back. I got a better run because of that mistake.
Yeah, that was that was very sneaky. Not sure if he caught him off by the radio chatter and distracted him for a moment. But Paul said, I'll just do that right back at you. Moves himself up into 10th once more. But Adam Gerling as you can see here from the onboard with Casey on, is way up the road now and is absolutely dashing away from the pair of them. So that's going to make it harder to try and get into that 9th spot if you are Paul Cavanaugh from here. Uh-oh, are we on again? Yes, it looks like it. Abu Haka with a good toe coming up the hill into turn 1. Estupinan, can he defend? He drifts off the racing line just a little bit, back off to the left-hand side to open up turn 1. Nathan can't get there quite yet, but he gets a good launch coming off of that right-hander down into turn 3. He decides not here, maybe into 5. Maybe he's setting himself up here, Justin.
Yeah, just trying to go defensive right now is the 21. That's going to be the tough thing. Trying to make sure he doesn't feed too much draft to Abu Haka. And knowing Abu Haka already from this distance has gone deep to the left. Again, takes away the line. Abu Haka nearly setting it into his back bumpery, trying to set it so aggressive. This is what I talked about, having to be careful here because Abu Haka is going deeper in the brakes each time through turn 5.
For some reason, Chad Casion has come back into pit lane. So not sure what that's about as we ride on board now with Abu Haka. Still desperately wanting to taste of the champagne today. And he's been trying his hardest to deny it for Gilles Estupinan. He knows he can afford to be a little bit more aggressive here. So what has he got in terms of speed? Clearly good enough to try and go on the attack, but has not been able to make anything stick up to this point. By the way, we want to give one more shout, of course, to the Operation Motorsports Benefit event, which is going to be coming up soon later this year, the 6 Hours of Spa. And that'll be Sunday, May 4th at Spa-Francorchamps, naturally. And, of course, will be broadcast live. Go to PCASimRacing.com/Opmo6Hours if you want to find out more. And if you want to register, you can simply go to tinyurl.com/Opmo2025. Operation Motorsports, veteran recovery through motorsport. Don't think we're going to see a pass here this time. Looks just a little bit too far away, but look at Nathan. He's still trying to get into his head, Justin. He's weaving around, filling those mirrors.
Yeah, just trying to make sure he holds on to the spot because the second Abu Haka closes the deal here, there's a chance Estupinan might not be able to get the spot back again. Going full sweep, go slow. They still have a 4-second buffer to Costas. Keep that in mind if they spend too much time battling. Wait and see if Abu Haka tries to take an air poke left. Yes, indeed. Ooh. But again, that door wasn't fully there this time.
That's starting to smack a little bit of desperation now. I don't think he was going to make it to the inside of that car. In fact, yeah, look at that around the outside. Costs him coming into turn 6. Patience is needed by the 958 from here. He's there. He's quick, Justin. I just feel like maybe he's trying to be a little bit too erratic now.
It's a little bit dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. Absolutely. Because if you have someone who says, oh, if gap car, then both cars go off racetrack. And here's the thing. Every time they do that, they cost themselves about a second or so. So do the math right now. You're coming up to 4 estimated laps to go. You do that 4 more times, they get there. Here's another send through Canada corner for Abu Haka with the squeeze.
This time he makes it work. He's ahead. Estupinan now the one on the back foot. Can he get back by Abu Haka, or is Nathan going to start to dash away? He's already getting a couple car lengths over the 21 at this stage, and you can see behind them Costas has his own issues to worry about. So I don't think he's thinking about catching up to those two. He's got Karachai breathing down his neck. Across the line with Abu Haka now scoring in third with a mere 6.5 minutes left to go. And P1 and P2 have run away. It's not really a battle for that for the win anymore. Owens and Kuo are kind of off on their own quiet race.
Yeah, right now Abu Haka, I think, is just going to try and set off and run away because he's been held back a little bit at this point. Estupinan Not close enough for lunge back. You see it from the back end of the pit machine. Right now, I think at this point, Abu Haka's got the podium clear. Estepinen's still a good points day, as you talked about. But that Roxy machine has got himself comfortable now that he's been able to get away from all the battling. He's able to get himself a good finish.
Yeah, I mean, I think the clear air is definitely a big part of this, too. He's probably loving having that for the first time in a long time in this race. And Gilles, in the meantime, is having to experience it finally, getting stuck back here. He did catch up to Kuo, so he has had a bit of experience with it a little bit earlier on. But it's been a minute, of course, and as we come down through the carousel, he's keeping close to him. He's not letting him run away, but this is not nearly close enough to try and make an attack. He almost needs to rely on a mistake from Nathan if he wants to try and pass from this far back, as we check out what happened to Jeffrey Gardner and maybe what gave him a penalty here, because he's gotten a black flag. Goes to the inside, and the opening's not there, and, well, unfortunately, both he and his rival go off track.
Yeah, all over the back bumper. Not a passing area. Normally you don't see side by side on the carousel, and it's pretty clear why that would go the way of Jeff Gardner in that section. But with less than 5 minutes to go, Estepinen's trying. He's still fighting hard. Abu Haka is very nervous about this draft, opening a chance back for Estepinen. Estepinen, though, needs to get these corners better in this dirty air. Abu Haka was very good in the dirty air once he got settled in behind the blue machine for the pass.
Coming down to the break-in of turn 3 once again, and the battle for 5th is still close as well. In fact, very close under braking, as Karachai seems to be quite brave on the binders into that downhill corner. That gets him right up to the rear bumper. Is this his chance to get back into the top 5? He's got the inside. No defense from Costas, interestingly. He left the door open. Does he just feel that confident down into the turn? If he did, it has failed him, because Karachai is through.
Good recovery from that hit to the wall. And that's wild, to say the least, for the 78. All you can really say is for him to not even lose a spot net from a crash. Oh, Estepinen's around on a spin.
Oh, no. Oh, no, he's losing multiple positions. Costas, Karachai, or they've all gone through. He's got a break to Lopez. He's able to get going. Thought I saw a little bit of debris left behind. Yep, that is his front bumper completely gone. The splitter is missing. That's going to make it difficult. And he's gone from a 300 points, or I guess 280 since he was sitting in 4th. Now in 7th, that's only 240 points.
Yeah, just went too deep, bounced it off the back of Abu Haka. That caused him to spin around. It's been very lucky he didn't get slammed in too hard by some of those cars in traffic. Never mind. Yeah, the iRacing gods did not favor him with Kevin Orr coming by.
So 2 laps to go, as Owens just crossed the line a bit ago. Still got a gap of about 5.3 seconds. That unleashes Nathan Abu Haka to finally focus forward and run his own race, and gives us a chance to give some love to Karachai and Costas. Mimit managed to get through. What's Christopher going to do about it?
Can he bounce back here for a move? It's going to require a good corner exit and then some right now with the distance. I think he needs a slip up right now with Karachai, because right now Costas isn't going to make up 5-6 car lengths to draft unless Karachai has a bad corner.
Yeah, I think you're right. It looks like he's got the speed. He was fighting to try and get by for a while there. That or just catching up, and finally caught him and made that pass quick. Not sure which it is, but Mimit now up in a P4. Abu Haka, 2.5 seconds. I don't think he's going to make that up in that amount of time. I am keeping an eye, though, on Estepinen and what kind of pace he's able to run, because Kavanaugh is the next car down. It's about 4 seconds to him. So Gilles is not out of the woods if he is lacking pace due to the missing front bumper. Here is Kavanaugh along with his webcam. We can even see his inputs, both feet and hands.
See that on the full cam right now, just trying to make his way around the track. And watch the pedal movement, just being careful on the throttle. As mentioned, the carousel, not full throttle, just burping it around without sliding those tires. Right now, Kavanaugh seems like he's in a decent spot. We'll have to do one more defensive move with Gerling building up speed for the final minute or so. But what a race it's been. Kavanaugh with a good one for him.
Undoubtedly. White flag is out for Alan Owens as he'll come across the line. And again, just no challenge from behind. That is not a car for position. That is Jim Walsh, who's currently running 33rd. So he is just kind of hovering behind him to wrap this one up and collect some points of his own. Upper Canada region here for Alan Owens. Hopefully we'll only have to go through Canada Corner one more time on this one, and that'll be it for him. By the way, Gilles Estupinian last lap a 2:07.7, and that's a little bit slower than his than what he was able to run before. So he is losing time, but it's going to be tight on whether or not Kavanaugh can catch him because it's about 2.2 seconds. So yeah, Kavanaugh's last lap 2:05.1. Yeah, this will be right down to the line for that 7th spot.
There's what I was expecting with Gerling. Kavanaugh trying to hug that inside for the final time around. Gerling's going to have to keep it alongside and somehow make the move. I don't think it's there. Would have to hope for the cross. Kavanaugh still got a good line.
So this helps out Gilles quite a bit. Kavanaugh having to battle with Gerling will slow him up, no doubt, prevent him from being able to catch back up behind them. Lopez just managed to get through on Wolf for a top 10. So still drivers doing everything they can to get whatever points are on the table in this last lap of the race. There up the road, you can see Gilles, but now it may have been a little bit too much having to play defense for him to have hopes of catching up. In the meantime, I can tell you that Alan Owens has a single corner left to go. There he is on your screen now. The clouds have come out here at the end of the race, but it is bright sunshine here at Road America for Alan Owens, who's even trying to allow Jim Walsh to have his lap back. Jim doesn't want it. Victory for the 401 car here in Wisconsin.
Another dominant performance. Alan Owens, 2 wins on the season. He's been very good at his times of racetracks all season. 7 seconds on the runaway. After pit stops, he just was able to stretch it out significantly.
In the meantime, Estupinian, I think, will still be our points leader, just not as great a margin as we were anticipating, as he'll come home in 7th. But probably a bit of a missed opportunity there for the 21 driver. Kuo and Albuhaca going to get themselves a nice podium here today as the rest of the drivers cross the line. Not a whole lot of battles that are very close here at the end. It was mainly the top of the field that was tight together.
Yeah, especially with how things flowed for the end of the race. It started chaotic. These drivers able to get themselves all situated. Once things calm down, I think we've seen some great battling in some of the groupings. Some of the drivers going a little bit more aggressive than we've seen some of the rounds in the calmer periods, though. Will say, what a race, to say the earliest.
Yeah, last couple are going to be coming through, and I think, 31 cars still on the lead lap. Well done to the field, despite a bit of drama for some of the drivers. They didn't, many of them managed to keep from going a lap down and complete all of our 30 laps today. So that should be pretty much it. Everybody now across the line. And our latest race of Series 13 has been run with Alan Owens taking the checkered flag. Jonathan Kuo at first looked like he could just about keep up, but he faded there at the end. He still collects himself a 2nd place, and Albuhaca had to fight for that podium and is rewarded with champagne and a 3rd place. Karachai, nice 4th from him. Christopher Costas with a top 5. Kevin Orr getting a bit of a surprise 6th there at the very end of this race as Gilles Estupinian slipped up from his 4th position and had to settle for P7. Paul Cavanaugh charging forward, collects an 8th place as Adam Gerling was 9th, and then Carlos Lopez will round out our top 10.
11th spot going to Will Wolf, then Peter Yurtza in 12th, Aaron Sunday in 13th, with Donald Manning in 14th. Marcel Yunez in the top 15 with Jeremy Hall and Brian Stern in 17th. Elsa, Beltran, Charlie Ferrer rounds out the top 20.
Then from there, it's Chad Casey on 21st, Ben Bulkley in 22nd. Avijit Barua P23 today as Arnie Clayson was 24th and Mike Saxton was 25th. Andrew Long, he had some troubles today. He wound up 26th. Kevin Schultz 27th. Ankerberg Zona was 28th, and Jeffrey Gardner was 29th. Chris Trankovich had a penalty, and that eventually put him into 30th. We'll just wrap these up. Walsh was a lap down, Maine was 31st. Walsh was a lap down in 32nd. Then you've got Lervold, Mungia, McDonald, Elizondo, and Del Toro was a did not start there in 36. Does look like we've got Alan Owens ready to chat with us, so let's pull him in and see what his thoughts are on this race. Alan, you kind of started with things maybe a little bit rough at times earlier in the season, but you seem to have gotten into a rhythm now.
Yeah, I've been practicing a little bit and really enjoying coming out and racing with everyone.
So now that you've taken your second victory of the season, I mean, what's your thoughts coming into the last 2 races, Hungaroring and Imola, to close things out? Are those strong enough that you think you might have a shot at going for a title, or was it just too much to overcome for the early no score and 10-pointer?
Yeah, essentially I got 2 drop races, so that's a lot of points to make up. I don't think I'd be able to challenge for the championship, but I want to go out and have fun and race clean, race hard, see how we do.
And how was this race itself? Because it looked relatively straightforward. I know at early stages, Jonathan Kuo was kind of keeping you honest, but after the pit stops, it looked like bye-bye.
I wasn't cruising out there. I was pushing, trying to maintain a gap to Jonathan so he wouldn't get in my draft. So no relaxing all the way to the end.
All right. Well, we like to hear that you had to work for it. Congratulations on the victory, Alan.
Thanks so much, Joe, and thank you to Princess Cruises for sponsoring the season, and thank you to PCA. Awesome community.
Alan Owens coming home P1 today here at Road America. And that's going to take us to Justin, who is caught up with John Kuo, who finished P2.
Yes, indeed, John. Quiet run towards the very end, but how would you describe your experience here, being able to hold on to the top 2 and be able to build a buffer over the rest of the podium?
Felt good. I was very concerned at the end. I was fuel saving for the last 3 laps, ended the race with 0.1 gallons. So that was kind of a sigh of relief. But beginning of the race, Gil was starting to pressure me, and luckily he made some mistakes to let me pull away, and I also made a few mistakes along the way to let Alan run away with it.
When it comes to a racetrack like this, how would you describe the difficulty level when it comes to being able to consistently turn laps, but also making sure you don't overburn the fuel, like you just said, with how close it was in the margin?
Just make sure you hit your marks and stay focused. And there were a couple times where I lost focus, especially at the beginning when I jumped that curb.
Now, when it comes to the next couple races here, what's going through your mind for the closing stages of this campaign?
I'm hoping I could keep ending on the podium, being the new guy in this group.
Quite simple in that, Mark. Congratulations on the podium here tonight, John. Anyone you want to give a shout out to?
The PCA, race control, you guys in the broadcast booth, just having a fun time.
Congratulations on the podium.
Thank you very much.
John Kuo to the point, as he got some great points here over Nathan Abuhaka who is catching up with Joe Peak after some intense battling for the podium.
Indeed. And Nathan, your first podium of Series 13. Does the fact that you had to battle for it make it that much sweeter?
Yeah, it does. I do feel bad for Gil there at the end because I don't even know how many laps we were right next to each other. And it was intense there for all the way to the end for the last 2 laps, and I could relax a little bit, but stinks what happened to him.
Now, how closely do you pay attention to the point situation? Because a big talking point for us during the race was that Gilles had a good chance to try and take the points lead today, so he needed to just bring home a finish, whereas you obviously didn't have that sort of Damocles hanging over your head. Were you aware of that during the battle?
I pay attention to it a little bit. I just try and be as clean as possible. I wanted to get the podium to be the first one of the season, and it stinks for him again that it had to end that way because we were really battling there to the end.
I know it's a really tight-knit community here, and you guys still want the best for one another. Even still, does this turn things around? Do you take momentum out of these moments where you cross that threshold?
I hope so. I'm relatively new to the whole sim racing thing, so this is the first track that I've actually been back to for the first time. So I felt a little confident going into it, and hopefully I can continue it for the rest of the season.
All right. Well, you're doing a pretty good job, I'd say, for a newcomer. That was 3rd place for Nathan Abuhaka here today, finally getting up to taste the champagne. And I believe that is actually going to wrap us up as well. So we'll give a big shout out to everybody that took part, as well as mention to you, our viewers, that we've got another one coming up soon. The Hungaroring for the sport class will be March 26th. And as always, that'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern. Very different track to what you've got here. Very, very twisty. But we're not quite done with Road America yet. Tomorrow night, March 13th, the challenge class will wrap up our competition at the National Park of Speed. Big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, as well as to our team tonight, Ramiro and Justin. And thank you for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.